Good evening. Glad you're here. Hi, Zoomers. I'm waving at you. The temptation is to wave here, but they live up there, right? That's the confusing thing. I'm glad you're here. Those of you that have a program in front of you will see, actually, could I?
Trish, I think you're muted.
I have to, oh my God, you're right. You are so good at your job.
Bottom left.
Thank you for saying something. Aha, did that just do something? Look at all the happy thumbs. Thank you. Hi, Zoomers. That would have been pretty cool, actually. Well, I mean, like, do you think they would have thought, like, that was deep? Or something? Like, it was just silence. Just totally silence for 45 minutes. Wow, I had to find the Dharma. Like, just a silence. Like, wow, like that dude was deep. Sorry to break the spell. What you have on your program here this evening, thank you for letting me borrow it, so I remember what the heck I'm talking about here. The supreme instrument is the title I gave to this talk, and there's a quote from James Baldwin. If you don't know who that is, please Google him later. He says, "One discovers the light in darkness. That is what darkness is for. But everything in our lives depends on how we bear the light. It is necessary, while in darkness, to know that there is a light somewhere, to know that in one's self, waiting to be found, there is a light." Thank you again. So I'll read that to you one more time. One discovers the light in darkness. That is what darkness is for. But everything in our lives depends on how we bear the light. It is necessary, while in darkness, to know that there is a light somewhere, to know that in one's self, waiting to be found, there is a light. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that tonight. James Baldwin was I would say he was a spiritual teacher. He was a preacher for some parts of his life. He was also an author and a playwright and an activist and a whole bunch of other things. But there is a beautiful wisdom expressed in that I think gives voice to a very Buddhist relationship with awareness. Awareness itself, the nature of that awareness. And I think it's helpful from time to time for students of Buddhism, whether casual or very devoted students of Buddhism, to hear the same teaching that we are used to hearing, described in different language, lest our perceptions of the Dharma become patterned. Does that make sense? There's lots of words that mean mindful, and mindful is a good one. But if that's the only word we use, then we forget that there are other ways of getting there, and we start having does that make sense? Like it starts being patterned, like, oh, it's a known quantity, I know what that is. So in other words, I stop seeing it. Right? You know this, because all of you have a coworker, or a friend, or a family member, and you're going to see them tomorrow like you saw them today. And you're going to make the assumption that you're meeting the same person. And you're not. Right? Yeah, they're the same. But also, nope. They've had 24 hours of experience between when you saw them last. Whole bunch of feelings, whole bunch of memories, impulses, thoughts, all sorts of stuff. Different version, different person. right? But this is how human consciousness is. We go, oh, I was at Zen Center last Tuesday, so I'm here again. Same thing. Conventional, but dead. And so thinking, I know what mindfulness is, because I memorized the description, I read it online, and Thich Nhat Hanh told me what it was, and I know what that is. Cool, fine, well, done, but also dead. Can you feel it? That's not the nature of Dharmic instruction, to be really strict. Dharmic instruction is experiential. Always. Right? That's why our teachers always say, you can't catch this. Or, sorry, you can't teach this, you can only catch it. Right? Zen is caught, not taught. Don't read books on swimming, get in the pool. Don't describe orange juice, drink it. That kind of stuff. Right? And so when you see your friend again tomorrow, or your loved one, or your coworker, just remind yourself of that part of, oh, you've had an entire day of experience since I've met you last. I wonder what that was like for you. You got layers you didn't have yesterday. Isn't that cool? Because everything is impermanent, everything is changing. So we're talking about old Dharma stuff today. I got nothing new for you. There's never anything new in this room. Isn't that refreshing? Literally, it's one Dharma talk over and over. Every Sunday and every Tuesday. Sorry to ruin it, but that's the truth. Leo knows, he's been here a long time. A lot of you have been here a long time. It's the same thing, over and over and over and over and over. Pay attention to your life. It's a miracle, and it's changing all the time. Did you catch it? Here's another chance. Did you catch it? Here's another chance. Ta-da, we're done. We can sell the building and go about our business. So we're talking about the same old thing tonight. Same old thing. But I do like to come at it from a different angle from time to time because I genuinely think it's really, really helpful. Number one, because it helps us to remember our beginner's mind, and also because I'm aware that Dharma was written in a language that's beholden of cultures that very few of us have had exposure to, and very few of us were patterned within. Does that make sense? Our perceptions are Western patterns. That's not better or worse, it's just different. And so hearing Western voices express Dharma goes into us in a different way. So I just think it's cool. It's part of how Dharma gets bigger. Like, oh yeah, we have the same thing here, and we call it this. You know. So I'm gonna get to James. I set him up, and I promise I'll get to him. But I'm going to start with a very short little couple of sentences here from Maria Popova. She writes a blog called The Marginalian, which is related to the word margins, on the margin. If you live in the margins, if you are in the margins, you are a marginalian. That's a vocab word, guys. That's cool, right? I've felt marginalized all my life. I must be a marginalian. Ooh, that sounds kind of cool, right? Don't you sort of want to be a marginalian? I know I do. That's cool. So The Marginalian is her blog. I highly recommend it. She writes, love, that most intimate and inward of human labors, that supreme instrument for magnifying the light between us and lighting up the world, is an act of courage and resistance. Love becomes a lens on the world, on space, and on time. A pinhole through which a new light enters to project onto the cave wall of our consciousness landscapes of intimate importance from territories of being we would never have otherwise known. It's like a piece of cheesecake, isn't it? That is rich. I'm going to do it again because there's a lot going on. Maria's no slouch. But this is good Dharma. Love, in our tradition, metta, or loving kindness is the word we might use to describe unconditional positive regard. That is the technical definition. Oh yeah, metta in your, or maitri in Pali, is unconditional positive regard. Cool. That sounds awfully sterile to me. That doesn't move me. I have unconditional positive regard for you. Really? Hallmark's not going to buy that. They're not going to make that into a card. That sucks. I mean, it's cool. It's descriptive. But come on, man. That doesn't describe grandma. Right? So we have other words, thank God, that describe this. Grandmotherly mind being one of them. that describe a little more evocative terms for what it's like to be regarded without separation, regarded without judgment, regarded without condemnation. Unconditional positive regard. You understand the type of connection that I'm describing. This is not small L love. I love French fries, right? I love it when there's no traffic. I love my sweetheart. I hope she's faithful to me. We're not talking about that. Ego-based, clinching, grabbing, greedy, possessive. No. Not the way we use the word love. Big love. Big love. Big mama love. Metta Sutra love. Corinthians 13 love. Big love, right? With a capital L. Love. Enlightenment, we would say, no. That's the nature of enlightenment. The nature of awakening in the field of space and time, we call love. Our tradition doesn't stay with that. It says we have to break that down so it has qualities that you guys can work with. And so we say Buddha and the nature of enlightenment in the field of space and time is compassion and wisdom. That's how we break down love. Right? Maitri, metta, in the field of space and time, which is where we are. That manifests the qualities that we call compassion. I will suffer with you. I'll feel that with you. And wisdom, the ability to discriminate what is true from what is not true. Very loosely speaking. Does that make sense? Yeah. So we have our two primary bodhisattvas are the bodhisattva of compassion and the bodhisattva of wisdom. They are functions of Buddha consciousness in the field of space and time. Pretty cool. One more time for Maria. Love, that most intimate and inward of human labors. So already we're at Zazen. The labor of Zen is inward. All of us know that. The labor of Buddhism is inward. It's external too. It's outward eventually, all by itself. It can't help but be. Right? But the inner landscape is the purview of the Buddhist tradition. Why? Because this is the origin of joy, and this is the origin of enlightenment, and this is also the origin of delusion and greed and hate and suffering. Right here. So I'll get there. I can't help but go there. But this is the field that I cultivate. Does that make sense? That's why we sit. That's why meditation is so strongly emphasized in the Zen tradition of Buddhism. It's right here. So, the most intimate and inward of human labors. That phrase is just, oh man, that's so good. Oh, I wish I had written that. I love that. Intimate and inward. I'm going to circle back to intimate because there's a hook there that's hard for us. That most intimate and inward of human labors, that supreme instrument for magnifying the light between us and for lighting up the world. The light is between me and me first, and then between me and you second. Do you see the order there and how important that is? Of course the light between us is the light. We all understand that. The light of love illuminates our lives. We're like, yeah, no faith tradition in the world would argue with that. No psychologist would argue with that, really. I'm like, yeah, I get it. But the importance of the sequence here is this is illuminated first. And it's not only inward, but it's intimate. Intimate in English is one of those words, one of those wonderful Western words that is oftentimes used by Zen teachers as a synonym for enlightenment. Intimacy. Isn't that interesting? Enlightenment and intimacy feel really different in our language, don't they? Enlightenment, none of us had heard of in this culture before 100 years ago because we don't have that word other than the Enlightenment, right? Oh yeah, that was when all the painters and stuff were doing weird stuff. And the music was doing weird stuff. Oh yeah, the Age of Enlightenment. Yeah. And they started, oh, that cool. Okay, I get it. Yeah, it's part of postmodernism and blah, 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 blah. But we're talking about individual enlightenment as a spiritual state. And until we had active contact with teachers from the East in the yogic traditions and in the Buddhist tradition and in the Southeast Asian tradition, we didn't have this idea of human beings attaining a state of spiritual awakening called enlightenment. But now we do. Now that's a mainstream word. We know what that is. And we have lots of ideas about it that make it. And so when our Japanese teachers, this is 2 generations of teachers ago for most of us, started using, and they got better and better and better at English, they started using intimacy as a synonym for enlightenment. Like, oh, you guys are already biting the hook of enlightenment. That word is way too lofty, and you're freaking out, and you're thinking it's some big thing, and it's not some big thing. It's intimacy, and what they mean is no separation. No gap. They used to say, no gap. So intimacy, all the way intimacy. Now, all of us would understand that love would have the quality of intimacy, because if it wasn't intimate, we wouldn't call it love. We completely get that. But all of a sudden, if we're talking about this as an expression of meditation practice, as something that I do sitting cross-legged on a black cushion facing a wall, and I call it zazen, then suddenly, if my task is to love everything that comes into my awareness, I have a pretty different understanding of what meditation is. I have a very different invitation. Oh, I want you to be infinite and intimate and inward and no gappy and no separation with everything that you see, everything you feel, everything you sense, everything that shows up here, everything that shows up here. That's what I want of you, earnest Zen student. You start going, oh, wait. No. I thought there was this whole idea of me winnowing and sifting and winnowing and sifting and winnowing and sifting and thinking. Nope. Anger. Nope. Joy. Okay, yep, you can stay. Restless body. No. Ugh. Restless heart. No. Right? Lofty thoughts. Oh, you can stay. The thoughts about tomorrow's big dinner party. No. Out. Right? Stupid coworker, she keeps stealing my pencils and keeps stealing my stapler. No! Out! You don't belong. Can you feel it? Winnowing and sifting. This is what we do during the day, all the time. Constantly sifting, constantly choosing. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. Yes, no. The Buddha talked about this all the time. He's like, oh yeah, you're just grabbing onto what you like and pushing away what you don't like. That's called suffering. Do it your whole life if you want. I mean, if you want, but that's literally the definition of suffering. You have something you don't want, or you want something you don't have. Ta-da! And so now you're doing it on the cushion. And you're calling it zazen. Oh, so that's kind of better than normal. I'm still doing the same thing I did on traffic on the way here, but it feels better to do it on a cushion in a room that's quiet, and there's a candle that's like, oh, yeah. I'm still doing the very same thing, but here it feels sort of holy, doesn't it? Oh, that kind of intimacy is not what I signed up for, and yet anyone who's read the Metta Sutra, the Loving Kindness Sutra, knows that's exactly what's asked of us. So this type of awareness is the supreme instrument for magnifying the light between us and lighting up the world. And it is an act of courage and resistance. The courage part I can get to pretty easily. Can you guys get to that pretty easily? Just because there's parts of me that are difficult to be with and difficult to honestly acknowledge. Oh, I am scared of that. And so it will take courage for me to say, yes, I see you there too. I see. That's courage. That makes sense to me, right? I'm feeling fear, but I'm doing it anyway. So, okay, that's courage. To see that as resistance, that's interesting word choice there, isn't it? I'm not going to say much about that because I want to just sort of let that roll around in your noodle or in your heart. Maybe that would be a better place for it to roll. But resisting what? The vibe of this to me doesn't feel to be describing a constriction kind of resistance. To me, it seems to be describing a conscious choice. No? Yes. And even that feels different than you belong and you don't. This feels more like, oh, I see you, Mara. The story of the 3 temptations of the Buddha. Oh, I see what you are. Yeah, I understand you. I get that you're here. I don't have to act from that place. But that doesn't feel like it's coming from a place of rejection. I see you, anger. Oh, you want to yell. Yeah, I totally see that. I'm not going to yell. But I see that you're here. Can you feel it? There's just a different energy there than, oh, God, anger. Oh, shoot. I was like 7 days in a row without feeling anger, and I was on like a good Buddhist streak. I was going to tell my teacher 8 days in a row with no anger. And he would have said, wow, you suck at this. I promise you have felt anger 7 times since you started that sentence. Anyway, we're getting there. Love becomes a lens on the world. So when we sit in meditation, which a lot of you just did for 40 minutes, that's what you do. You're sitting in a chair, you're sitting in a bench, you're sitting in a cushion. You're sitting here at the Zen Center, you're sitting at home. What you're doing is I'm going to set a timer or have somebody keep a time for me. And I'm going to sit down. And what I'm vowing to do is to take the shape of Buddha with my body, just because that seems to help. You know, sitting upright helps me stay awake, it helps me stay present, and being soft and seated and relaxed helps me remember that I'm very spacious. It's okay. I'm safe. I'm grounded. Right? So I'm going to make the shape of Buddha to remind me that that's what I am. I am love. That's what I am. I am consciousness animating flesh. I'm a spiritual being having a human experience, as they say in the Christian mystical tradition, right? Spirit and body. That's what makes me different than this, right? Or this. Not animated, animated. Matter, matter. But this one's going boom, 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 boom. I can feel that. I can totally feel that, you guys. The matter is alive. It's animated. That's my nature. I'm consciousness. I'm awakeness. I'm enlightenment. The quality of aliveness. Spirit, we can call it. I don't care what word you call it. It doesn't matter. But the experience that consciousness is having is, ooh, lungs. Ooh, cold, wind, people, gender, needs being met, needs not being met, fear, illness, aging, connection, disconnection. Can you feel it? I've just described human. The experiences of a human. Yeah. I have the privilege of knowing it from the inside. Oh my God. You guys all know what it's like to feel thirsty. Thirsty. That's a thing, isn't it? That's a thing. Try to describe thirsty to someone who's never been thirsty. Number one, you couldn't. Words would never be able to go there. And number two, it's impossible because everybody's had that experience. It's a universal experience. When I say, you know how it is when you're thirsty, you immediately go, yeah, of course. Do you feel how connected we are? Non-separate. Right? So the human experience of constriction and fear and shame and suffering, what Buddhists call dukkha, suffering, constriction, struggle, that's connective tissue. Literally connective tissue. When I describe my heartbreak, having to put my cat to sleep and feeling the body go limp, you know that feeling. Whether you've ever put a cat down or not, you know that feeling. You know what death is. Can you feel how, now our hearts are beating together. I do know that feeling. This is intimacy. This isn't just shared belief. We both agree that Titanic is overlong and overrated. We both really, really think that Velvet Underground is awesome. We both really think that so-and-so should have won the so-and-so. Yeah, shared idea is cool. Shared belief's fun. Is that intimacy? No. That's not intimacy. That's just shared ego preference. It's cool. It's fine. It's not a problem. But don't mistake that for intimacy. And intimacy is what suffering craves. When I am suffering, I crave compassion. I crave the intimacy of having someone go, I see it and I feel it with you. I'm saying something important here. Suffering doesn't crave cessation. We think that it does. We think that when we are suffering, we want it to stop. That's pain. That's different. Pain, do you understand the distinction? Buddhists spend a lot of time on this one. that there's a very important distinction made between pain, and I know conversationally we use these words identically. It's interchangeably. Don't worry about it. It's okay. We're just playing with language right now, right? These are just symbols. But in the Buddhist tradition, from the very, very, very beginning, he's like, there's a very important distinction we have to make right away out of the gate in order to even get to the Four Noble Truths. Pain is pain. It's the mammal. It's the ego. It's the mammal going, it's cold. It's too cold for me. That's the pain of cold. The pain of separation. The pain of stubbing your toe. When you stub your toe and it's like, ah, and you use all that non-Buddhist language. That's pain, right? When you are thirsty, you crave water. To the starving man, God can only appear as bread, right? We understand this is pain. And pain craves cessation. Thirst wants water. Hunger wants food. Cold wants warmth. We get that, right? That makes sense. When the baby cries, it's like, it's because I'm cold, right? And so I want you to pick me up and make me warm. So pain craves cessation. That makes sense. Please make the pain stop. But suffering, dukkha, that's something else. That's something unique to our species, the two-leggeds, right? My cat can feel pain. But as far as we know anyway, my cat does not experience suffering. Why does the world have to be this way? What's wrong with me? I can't believe I barfed on the pillow again. He's told me over and over not to do that, right? There isn't self-judgment. There isn't shame as we know it, right? There isn't the thing that we are doing all of the time, which is worrying about dying. My cat doesn't know that she's going to die. Only we get to know that. Right? Only we get to know. Oh, I bet I know where this train's going. Like, yeah, you do. Oh, yeah, you do. But instead of just going, oh, I see that that is true, we go, I see that it is true, and I hate it. I hate it. I reject thee. Right? Rage against the dying of the light. Oh, my Lord, what a drama queen. I love Dylan Thomas, but man, the whole thing is just, I've become a 2-year-old, and I will not accept the fact that I will get old, and I will get sick, and I will die. Of course, this is a very human expression. That's why we love it. That's why we understand it. Like, God, I know that so well, to rage against the light. But that's suffering. This is the way it is, and I'm saying no. Nope. Don't like it. Suffering. I'm fighting with what is. So suffering cries out for compassion. It wants to be seen and acknowledged. It wants to be held. It wants to be witnessed. It wants an experience of no gap. Usually we associate this with someone else doing this for us. Does that make sense? It makes sense. I am really, really sad. And I am too. And Mom sees that I'm really sad. Oh, sweetheart. Sweetheart, come over. Hey, what's going on, buddy? Are you feeling sad? It looks like you're feeling sad. Why don't you sit here? Why don't you tell me about that? So I still feel sad. But can you feel that everything within me is already starting to shift? It has been seen. It has been named. It has been recognized. And it was met with no anxiety. Not a problem. It's not a problem that you're sad. You're just sad. Are you sad? Oh, you're sad. Are you thirsty? Oh, you're thirsty. Are you happy? Oh, you're happy. None of these are problems. They're just weather. It's not a problem. Oh, look, it's raining. Oh, look, it's sunny. Oh, look, it's snowing. Oh, look, it's hot. It's just the weather. You can be okay. Do you feel how she's teaching you self-regulation? And then why don't you tell me about it? So what she's not saying, because it would be really, really weird, is I will feel that with you and I will bear you witness. Because that would be weird for a 2-year-old, right? But that's the language we get in our tradition, the beautiful Buddhist tradition, with the 3 temptations of the Buddha. Who bears you witness sitting under that tree, you weird, bald freak? Some of the translations vary, of the original Sanskrit. So I'm quoting translations that are less popularly known. Anyway. Right. Our hero touches the whole earth. The whole earth bears him witness. But can you feel there's a very different thing happening there? What that kid is learning in that moment is it is okay to be sad. Sad is the weather of the heart. And you are so big, you get to be with it. It's not a problem. You are not less you when it is present. It is not giving you a message you should ignore or distrust. You should actually feel it more fully because you can, and you should describe it to me. You should express it. What is that? Can you feel that what I'm being met with is, your experience is important? Are you sad? Oh, tell me about that. So there's compassion and wisdom being expressed in a very everyday kind of way. But that is intimacy. And you can feel that's light. That little one isn't going to walk away going, oh my God, my mom is an enlightened being. I just experienced compassion and wisdom. That just lit up the world. No, of course not. They're going to be like, I don't know, now I'm bored and I want fish sticks. Because that's what 2-year-olds do, right? Now they're bored and they want something else. But what I'm amazed by, and the reason I'm hitting this so hard, and the reason this quote jumped off of the screen and led me to James Baldwin, was because of how tenacious my own patterning is when I sit cross-legged on these cushions. How difficult it is to still recognize, oh, that's sadness. I will turn toward it and feel it more fully and hold it more closely and ask questions of it because I want a relationship with that thing. That is still, for me, a conscious choice. I have to choose to do it. It isn't automatic. Can you feel the rewiring that I'm doing? It's still in process. I'm still needing to go, oh, right. That's sad. Because I've already caught myself trying to get away, suppress it, repress it, deny it, escape, tell a story, do something. And I understand that that is human nature. It is literally the nature of this mammal to avoid something that hurts. That's what mammals do. It hurts, you go the other way. That's what keeps us alive. We're not fighting with evolution. Pretty good. Right? I also, because I'm Homo sapiens, have a Homo sapien nature. Ego nature. Human nature. Not a problem, a function. As long as I know it's a function, everything is cool. If I start thinking it's me, I have a problem. I usually do. I have problems. All the time. And I go, oh, right. But my human nature, my ego nature, has exactly the same impulse that my body does, which it hurts, I want to go the other way. My boss comes in the room, and I feel tense, and I want to leave. Right? Yeah. I've just said something everybody understands. Yeah, that's what egos do. I'm scared of there being an experience that I don't want to have. But I also have another nature, which is where we started. As you do, as everybody does. I have a primary nature. Before this, and before the whole ego was scripted, before all of my patterning came along, before my culture told me, well, here's the feelings we're going to let you have, and here's how much of them we're going to let you show. Right? Here's what people with your skin color, or your gender, or your blah, 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 blah. Before all that scripting, before the conditioning of consciousness, if we want to feel traditional Buddhist, before the conditioning of consciousness, as a mammal, there was the unconditioned. The Taoists call this the uncarved block. We inherited a lot of Taoism in Zen because it's a Chinese creation, right? Zen is a Chinese creation. The uncarved block, the full moon, right? That which is not yet conditioned. When you were born, you're just consciousness, and you're trying to figure out what a body is and how it works. Unconditioned nature, I have that nature too. We call it Buddha nature. And Buddha nature has exactly the opposite impulse towards suffering that my mammal nature and my ego nature do. And you already know what that is. I'm like, you already know what that is. Isn't that cool? The mammal's like, ah! And the ego's like, ah! But grandma, come here, sweetie. Sweetie, are you sad? Oh, come here. Tell me about sad. Robai Shin is the Japanese word for grandmotherly mind. The mind of enlightenment is grandmotherly. Now there's a whole cultural overlay with grandma. If your grandma wasn't this grandma, please replace it with an equal archetype. We're just talking about, right, stereotypical, but we understand grandma energy to be unconditional, positive regard. Come here, sweetheart. So when we sit down in Zazen, like the good folks who are 2 rooms over from us right now are learning, they're taking Introduction to Zen Meditation. And so they're going to hear about how to arrange their body, and I'm using cushion, how to use a bench, and cross-legged, or Burmese, or full lotus, or half lotus, and how to stretch the back of that and tuck that. You got to make sure this is in line with the whole deal, right? You will be tested on this material. How to form the mudra just correct, because there's a whole way you got it. It's cool. It's beautiful. What if the instruction was, okay, good, you got your body all arranged. Is that going to be comfy for you for 15 minutes? Awesome. Okay, now just be grandma to everything. That's your job. What you hear, be grandma. What you feel, be grandma. Shows up in your body, be grandma. What you're thinking of, be grandma. Just be grandma to everything. You'll love all of it. It's okay. Her cranky little grandchild. Show me a grandma who doesn't love a cranky grandchild because they're cranky. That's not love. And grandma would never do that. Now, I know what I'm telling you is not the messages you probably got. They sure weren't the messages I got. I was given what I still recreate on the cushion, which was, when you're sad, go to your room. Come back when you're not. Are you angry? Go to your room. Come back when you're not. Can you feel the message? So then I discover a beautiful spiritual tradition called Buddhism that's about enlightenment and peace and love and softness. And I'm like, I understand those things. So all I've got to do is just sit down and get really, really good at sending all my bad feelings to the room. And if I do it enough, for long enough, they'll never come out again. Won't that be nice? People will think I'm so wise and so kind. God, he's never cranky. He just banishes his dark feelings immediately before they even show up. Wow. Enlightenment. Hot damn, can you feel it? This is kind of what we do. I'm exaggerating it a little bit to make my point, but geez Louise. We divorce ourselves from ourselves. So love becomes a lens on the world, a lens on space and on time, she says, because love is outside of time. Love is outside of space. It's preeminent. It's the original thing. Right? We are manifest for a little while, and we experience space, and we experience time, and we experience matter. Isn't that cool? Wow! We get a little while to be really vividly in a body. What a ride, right? But that means we have time, and we have linearity, and we have separation, and we have judgment, and we have diversity, and all those things are wonderful. It's part of the function of evolution. Yay, hooray! This is part of how Buddha nature functions, right? But love, enlightenment, doesn't know anything about time. Why would it? How could it? Space, time? It has no limitations. I've just described limitations to you. Love has no such thing. Enlightenment has no such thing. That's the deal. That's why when you sit on your cushion, you're Buddha's teacher. I remember somebody saying that in a Dharma talk a long time ago. I'm like, do you not understand how time works? That dude's been dead for 2,500 years. I'm pretty sure I can't be his teacher. I'm like, don't worry. Keep sitting. You'll be fine. But sooner or later, you'll know it's your job to be his teacher. We're outside of time. We're outside of space. A pinhole with which a new light enters to project onto the cave wall of our consciousness landscapes of intimate importance from territories of being we would never have otherwise known. Many times I've heard from students who are new that they have a problem in Zazen. They've been sitting for 6 months and this weird thing is starting to happen, and so they must be doing it wrong, and they want my advice on how to make it stop. And what that thing is that when they sit, because they have to sit every morning, or every evening, or maybe both, right? They're devoted Zen students. I'm making fun of this person because it's me. In case you're wondering who I'm making fun of right now. Right? And so they sit. I'm like, I'm feeling pretty good. All right. Oh, yeah. Time for Zazen. Good. All right, I had my tea. I'm feeling okay. I set my timer for 30 minutes, and 20 minutes later, I'm crying. What's going on? How come Zazen made me sad? Zazen's supposed to be like the best half an hour of my day. Isn't that its function? It's supposed to be the most peaceful half an hour of my day. When that bell goes off at the end, I'm supposed to feel fan-frickin-tastic. And very, very peaceful, and very, very calm, and very, very spacious, and very, very wise. And if I do it really, really well, that's probably going to last like 4 or 5 hours. Can you imagine? That's got some serious legs, man. Like even my boss didn't trigger me anymore. Whew. woo. And so what I've just described to you is the opposite of that. I felt worse when it was done. And so I remind them, like my teachers reminded me, how good it is that you sat still long enough that your life could catch up with you. Because of course Zazen didn't make you sad. You just sat still. Sat still doesn't make you feel anything. If you felt peaceful, it's because you are peaceful. If you felt sad, it's because you're sad. Neither one of those is a problem. Your nature can hold them both without any preference. It's okay. When peace comes, oh, peace is here. That's nice. When sadness comes, sadness is here. Can you feel Grandma? Oh, you're feeling really calm today, aren't you? What is it like? Tell me about it. Is it like emotional peanut butter, like really smooth, right? Are you feeling really sad? What is that like? Like emotional yogurt, maybe, that's like not sweetened. You know, it's too thick and Greek and sort of bitter. Is that what it is? I'm hungry. That's why I'm using these metaphors, right? But can you feel how Grandma just goes, yeah, bring it in. What you got? Bring it in. Bring it in. Bring it in. And so I remind him. Oh, good. Your zazen is starting to deepen. Because now your practice is, I notice that sadness has arisen. How shall I relate to it? And there's a very simple question we can ask ourselves. What would love do? Not what meditation technique. I mean, what would love do when love recognizes sadness? That's a really good question. That's a really good question. I know my human nature is make it go away, change it into happy. That's pretty tough to see. That one's pretty slippery, isn't it? Because that actually sounds pretty good, right? A more extreme version would be, ignore it. Or beat it. Beat it till it stops crying. That can be done. A lot of us beat our emotions when they show up. How dare you be here? If you do that often enough, long enough, yeah, you can train a dog that way. It'll stay still. It won't stay still out of love. It won't stay still out of devotion. It certainly won't stay still out of intimacy. But it will stay still out of great fear. I know you are scared tonight. How do I know that? Because you are Homo sapiens. You're always scared. Literally, anytime. I mean this. This is basic Dharma. Anytime. Search the entire spectrum of your consciousness for fear, you will find it. It is never absent. Because you are in form. And this form evolved as a prey animal in packs. So it's really, really scared on some level, even if it's very small, 0.001 on a scale of 1 to 10. It's still there because it's still going, is everything cool? Everything's cool. Everything cool? Everything's cool. Everything cool? Everything's cool. Right? Because we're prey. Further, pack animals, which is, you guys like me? You like me, right? Are we, okay, good. Can you feel that's the mammal? And then the ego. You guys, okay, respect, inclusion, being seen, heard, being valued, right? Okay. Okay, cool. I better scan again real quick. Can you feel it? So that's omnipresent. Why? Because that's the function of the container. That's literally the container doing its job. It's what it's supposed to do. Is that a problem? No, of course that's not a problem. That's not a problem. That's not a problem because your nature is infinite. So when you notice a little bit of fear there, you're like, oh, yeah, that's right. Of course. Of course, it's always just a little bit scared. Yeah. Sometimes it's a lot scared. Not a problem. Do you feel how what we just did is we turned suffering into pain? Isn't that interesting? There's no fight. There's no resisting. There's no, you should be different. No. Why would you? No. Grandma never says you should be different. She might set a limit with your behavior. You understand the difference there, right? She would set a limit with the behavior. Grandma's not a pushover. We always think she's a pushover. And then every once in a while we get a glimpse of her. Oh, that's right. You've been around a while. And never mind. We're not having Twinkies for dinner. Just kidding. Turns out we're having broccoli. And maybe one Twinkie, if we're good. So, the cave wall of our consciousness landscapes. Intimate, Important territories of beings we would never have otherwise known. That's what that student was telling me. I have come to know the landscape of sadness that exists within me. I have come to know the landscape of fear that exists within me. I've come to know the landscape of shame that exists within me. Yeah. Please discover it with love. Please explore it very, very carefully. Hold everything you find. It's the only thing that'll heal. It's the only thing that'll make a whole. It's the only thing that'll redeem. It's the only thing that'll illuminate. Do you feel it? That's the function of darkness that James Baldwin is talking about. This is me pivoting very, very cleverly to my closing. See what I just did there? I ruined it by talking about it. One discovers the light in darkness. That is what darkness is for. Wow. I've never heard that said. Our tradition for 2,500 years, enlightenment. It's consciousness. Consciousness is light. Consciousness is light. That's the whole point. Consciousness is light. I've illuminated it. I didn't know I was sad, now I do. It was in the dark, now it's in the light. I didn't see it, now I do. Right? We got it on the altar all the freaking time. Light. Our central image. It's beautiful. It's quite appropriate. But misunderstood, it would be that is good. And the darkness is bad. Do you feel how we would create a split? Oh, no. Do you feel how the dark of sad is calling upon the light of compassion? Do you feel how they meet? Do you feel how there's a non-separateness to that? There's not a problem there. Isn't that amazing? If you have a room like this, it's really, really illuminated, and if we imagine that the room right next door is dark, all the lights are off, isn't it fascinating that when we open that door, that room gets light, this room doesn't get dark? Weird, right? You can tell I don't know anything about physics, because if you know about physics, you'd be like, that's not weird at all, I totally understand why. Right? And you use a bunch of words I don't understand. But wow, isn't that interesting? When I do Zazen and I follow the breadcrumb trail of my own suffering, it's showing me exactly where I'm supposed to go. It's showing me exactly where I'm supposed to go. The candle is so much easier to see in the dark. Of course it is. Of course it is. So, one discovers the light in darkness. That is what darkness is for. But everything in our lives depends on how we bear the light. It is necessary, while in darkness, to know that there is a light somewhere, to know that in one's self, waiting to be found, there is a light. James Baldwin was a Pentecostal, if I remember right, not a Buddhist, but that's right out of our chant book, isn't it? That's right out of our playbook. That's only there to remind you what you are. That's only there to remind you of what you are. That's only there to remind you of what you are. Nothing on the altar isn't you. Right? The earth element, impermanence. The impossible perfection of a blossoming flower. Here and then gone. The miracle that is. Right? The archetype of compassion and wisdom. The nature of your consciousness. Your ability to be with pain. To feel it, to hold it. Grandma, there she is. Enlightenment. It's what you've always been. It's what you always will be. It's not a problem. Practice then, don't. Get it right, don't. Succeed, fail, who cares? Literally, it's a mark you can't possibly miss. It's your nature. It's like telling a wave, like, if you're really good, someday you'll be water. Really make a good wave shape for me now. Nice and tall. And then the little wave at the top. I mean, right? Like there's an amount of wave it can arrive at, or an amount of water it can arrive at. It's ridiculous. Of course not. That's our nature. That's why they're on the altar. They're not outside of us. They're within us, just like James Baldwin says. So, I'm going to wrap up with a reminder, probably because I need it. I love the word mindfulness. I have a good relationship with it. For me, it's not quite kind enough, just because of how I'm wired. So I prefer intimate. I prefer curious. I prefer kind. Mindfulness of body doesn't feel quite the same way as kindness toward body. Mindfulness of emotion doesn't feel quite the same as intimacy with emotion, just for me. Mindfulness of thought doesn't feel quite the same way as curiosity about thought. You know? So this is just me playing with language. But please let your self-reflective practice, your contemplative practice, whether it's Zen meditation or centering prayer or walking or going to see your therapist or whatever, I don't know what it is, maybe all of the above. Please remind yourself that the kinder you are when you are looking, the more will show itself to you. I mean, duh. That makes sense. If somebody's looking for you because they want to hug you, you're pretty quick to go, over here. If somebody's looking for you with a weapon in their hand, you're probably pretty quick to stay really, really quiet and really, really small and maybe run the other way. And when we're being self-judgment, when we are being self-judgment, what in ourselves is going to volunteer to be seen? I'm carrying a weapon. Can you feel it? This is what we do all the time. Come out wherever you are. Ooh. When our meditation starts from that different place, a lot shows itself. So this is our Zazen, and this is also the language of our scripture, and this is the language of our liturgy. Some people are really drawn to the liturgical, religious dimension of Zen. Some are not. If you're not, pitch it. Don't worry about it. It'll come back around. If you are, pay attention to the words. Those words are ancient. I know they've been translated into English, but man, they got layers. And when our service starts with all of my ancient, twisted karma, I will avow. That's the whole talk I just gave. I'll see all of it. But I'll see all of it with love. If I am holding a weapon, nothing changes. Nothing. But if I'm like, oh my God, the pain of the karma, come. Are you scared? Are you sad? Were you hurt? Did you hurt others? Come here and tell me all about it. Can you feel that? Can you feel the part of you that rises in you as I say those words? Tell me about the times you were hurt. Can you feel like 1,000 unspoken stories in you right now? I want to talk about the time on the playground. I want to talk about that time with Dad. I want to talk about my friend. I was so scared. Can you feel the part of you that rises and goes, I actually want to talk about the times when I was the scary one. I said horrible things. I did horrible things. My heart is filled with remorse. I'm so sorry. Can you feel it? That's real. That's the part of you that rises and goes, yes, me too, please. I want my turn on Grandma's lap. I really, really do. So if your meditation is that, stuff happens. Stuff grows. The Dharma is realized in those moments. That's compassion and that's wisdom. That's not that's not game playing, and that's not escapism, and there's no spiritual bypass, and this is not easy. I know you can feel what I'm describing is not easy, but changes everything. Changes absolutely everything. Wow, what a powerful thing. So, you've chosen to be here tonight. You're at Minnesota Zen Meditation Center. That's a weird decision. I still think it's weird people come here. It's a weird building. We do weird stuff. You should be at home watching Bridgerton. You're not. You're here. You're all weird. Isn't that beautiful? So you have bodhicitta, way-seeking mind, way-seeking heart. Some part of you is like, yes. Right? So the part of you that recognizes some truth in what I'm saying tonight, that's you. I got nothing. That's you. If you recognize it as true, it's the part that already knows it's true. So please follow that. That's what this whole thing is about. I'm so glad that you're here. I'm so glad that you're doing this. Yeah. Okay. I'm done. So we got 5 more minutes, and I've got to make announcements, and so I will do that. And I will turn off my recorder. Bye.